So
So the
Jason looks
split,
like he's mulled to 5. So what do you guys think as far as favored, unfavored here? Who's going to win this match? Make your predictions. And chat, make your predictions as well. Who's going to win this?
Yeah, Phil, I'm gonna let you take this one first because I know there's only one correct answer, and
yeah. So one thing is that Jason is probably the most proficient Turbo Depths player I've seen.
Yeah.
Like the dude is just so clinical when he plays any of these builds. I think that the difference in this one, I think, is that Leon has a bunch of answers to a resolved 2020. Granted, like he can Turbo Dust can fight back with Not of This World against things like Swords to Plowshares, but between the flyers that can block, the Swords to Plowshares that can remove it, he can also, if he gets a food chain and he can just put a bunch of flyers into the air every time, so he can block and then exile it with the food chain and then just have blockers until a Sajiri step hits. But
Looks like a multi 4 actually for Jason, by the way.
well, my
he
answer
also
was Jason. Like, I was gonna take the match. After seeing this Mulda 4, I'm going to maybe say it's like a 2-1 in Jason's favor.
So you're feeling like depth is heavily favored here?
I would rather be in the depth seat. I've played against depths from this. So here's the real kicker, right? I feel like the Yorion deck can be a little bit too clunky. You don't always find your Swords to Plowshares, and you don't always find the relevant, like set of cards that you need to take over them, because it's never just Swords to Plowshares. You also need to be able to tank through the flurry of discard spells, the crop rotations, all of that sort of stuff. And I know someone of Jason's caliber is definitely capable of setting up, weaving that web, and then just catching his opponent, just off guard, regardless of how, what sort of like interaction and things like that the opponent might be able to present. So the
All right, fair
mulligan to
enough.
5 might be a little bit of an issue. We see 2 Thespian stages in play.
Yeah, I think it was I think it was a multi 4. I'm pretty sure I saw him put 3 cards on the bottom.
Okay, yeah. The Molda 4 makes it even tougher. I would say that in this sort of situation, like, you lose when you lose 3 cards, you lose the ability to build back up after you get shut down the first time, or you lose the ability to protect what you have with, just like your combo, like, like with your crop rotations and that sort of stuff, right? So here we might even just see like Jason try to go off as soon as he can and then hope and pray that the first attempt works, but it's going to be pretty tricky because Leon's got that Oko on turn 3, and I don't know, that card puts you above 20 life. It makes a lot of problems.
just like looking at these lists, like I get that a bug food chain deck is probably a lot colder to Turbo Depths or Merit Lage in general, but Bant food chain, like almost every card in the list, aside from combo pieces, interacts with what Jason's trying to do. Whether it's Swords to Plowshares, whether it's gaining life to go above 20 to survive a hit, whether it's fighting to block in the air, he has the Caracas out. He also can just set up his own combo. There's just a lot of different axes that Bant Food Chain can play on that Bug necessarily couldn't, because like you're swapping Abrupt Decays for Swords to Plowshares, which is just a straight upgrade against Merit Lage decks.
I've heard some, from one Turbo Depths player say that like he doesn't want to see planes. Planes are this deck's weakness. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, white mana definitely makes it a lot more complicated because Swords to Plowshares is such a clean answer to the token. But that being said, it's not like you can't beat that, right? You've got tools like Sylvan Safekeeper out of the sideboard. You've got tools like Crop Rotation for Zajiri Step. These things do exist. But obviously, like, you'd much rather see your opponent like struggle with Abrupt Decays and Assassin's Trophies, and you want to be able to Stone Rain them, I guess, a lot more easily. Like, put the fear in them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when your opponent has planes, they know that they have this 1 mana instant speed catch-all answer that is really good. That being said, there's a lot of good cards coming into play from Leon's side. Uro, in addition to the Oko, is going to generate enough life to put Leon at a comfortable 21. And there's a big difference between taking dying in 1 shot and dying in 2 shots, especially with this Oko in play. That means that if Jason is not able to kill, if Jason is not able to kill Leon in one fell swoop, then the Oko is going to be able to elk the Merit Lodge, and then Jason's going to have to rebuild. And on a mulligan to 4, we already talked about how difficult this is going to be.
And
So we
he's
got
hit every land drop
stage. Yeah, 3 thespian stage and a bayou. Unfortunately, like theaters have been closed since the pandemic started, but he could have threatened to make a 2020 there had he played a Dark Depths that turn. It's just stuff like at this point with Leon having developed so much, he's above 21. He can survive a hit. He's got an Oko on the table. He's also playing the beatdowns right now. I mean, is there an avenue that if there is an avenue, Jason can find it. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, my brain is also not large enough to calculate the plays, but I guess you have to start by taking every edge that you can get. And, we see the Thespian stage copied the Forest earlier, which is going to help correct which is going to help correct Jason's mana. Maybe it involves something along the lines of end-step crop rotation into Dark Depths, and then, I don't know, like attack for 20 points and then time walk. And you know what? I'll leave it to Jason to figure it out, but from my perspective, it's looking pretty grim.
I mean, he does have the backdoor out of he does have a deck that is loaded with answers to remove Oko, right? Like a Hex Mage can just get rid of the Oko. So him having multiple Thespian stages here means that he doesn't really have much use for a Hex Mage. And so just having your 2-mana Vindicate for that Oko is a way to at least clear that out.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, there are 4 copies of Pithing Needle that you can use. You just name Oko, and then your Merit Lodge is safe. And then also you could even, respond to the Oko ability to elk the Merit Lodge with a Not of This World to protect it from becoming a 3/3. So it's not like this is lights out, but it certainly is not looking very good here for Jason by any means. He's going to have a strong sequence of draws here in order to take down.
What card was that?
It was a Mist Hollow Griffin forcing a Sylvan Scrying, I think. It's wild. Leon should give Show and Tell a shot because he's very good at 2-card Montying. This is the 4th time tonight that we've seen him force pitch one of his 3 Mist Hollow Griffins.
Yeah.
In Leon's defense, it is turn 3,000, and he's basically had all the time to cobble together all the cards that he needs. In addition to a couple cantrips and even an Uro, I am not surprised here, and I would imagine that he's even been able to set up more a denser counter wall. I mean, there's a Caracas too. Oh man, I don't even know. I believe in Jason. Let's see how he masterfully takes down the rest of this game, but Leon seems to have, the Voltron assembled. He's got Oko presenting the clock. He's got Caracas, and then potentially even Swords to Plowshares in his hand. To protect himself with. So
let's say he goes Hex Mage, take down the Oko, Pithing Needle the Caracas. He can make a 20/20, and then if it gets swords, it'll buy him a ton of time.
Yeah.
Is steps A, B, C, D, and E too much to come back into this game, or is it feasible?
Well, he's got 1 turn now.
Yeah, so he's at 5 life.
Yeah, he's at 5.
So it's do or die now. I mean, the Caracas, and this is kind of an issue too, because Caracas and Oko stop you from gaining that 20 life, which would be critical to getting those extra draw steps. If I had to guess, I don't know. The mulligan to 4 is super brutal there. Not having what the requisite resources to come back. There's an Urborg, so that gives you a little bit more mana, because if you do ever get Dark Depths into play, now it can tap for black mana. But yeah, it's tricky. I mean, even if we make so we pass the turn, so we can't even play Pithing Needle. So even if we make a 20/20 here, the Caracas will just bounce it before blocks, and we're looking at a whole what is it? A gang of elks? I don't even know what the word is here. Somebody science me.
A lot of elks, and I think that's game.
Yeah. I wonder how we could. What was the other thing that we had to make stick? There was another line that we had that I've already forgotten. So we're really not doing our job well here. But that one I think I can remember. That one I think we could trick people into using so that it becomes mainstream. You know what I'm saying? I like that.
Yeah, and chat, keep jamming emotes. Jam your favorite emotes if you want Food Chain to win here. Jam
Ooh,
emotes.
Ballista the Bug. We got one
Oh,
observant.
Ballista the Bug. Yes.
Yeah, one observant viewer in the chat. Thank you, Monka. Much appreciated. Ballista the Bug, Eldraine, and an Eldraine of Elk. I like that. Okay. Do
Ballista the
we do
Bug.
we have a an
He said
update
he
on
already
the
bought the shirt.
Oh, truth. I guess it's shipping to you too. What is it? I got to figure out how to make merch for my own channel cuz I feel like that's like
Do you think that's
a
a
free
thing? Is that like a thing that people make merch for their Twitch channel and it actually sells?
Yeah. People
Is
make
it?
a lot of bang for that. Like it's just like a side note, like diversifying your income from streaming like matters a lot. Merch is
Yeah,
one
yeah, for
really
sure.
easy way. And
Yeah.
I got the hottest way to sell t-shirts is just put a picture of my puppy Honey on the channel and then
Yeah. We got to get a puppy on
boom,
this channel. I don't know who though.
hot fire. Yeah. Or you just get a picture of walking ballista destroying
Ballista the
a
Bug. Yeah.
Xantid
Just
Swarm.
shooting an
Exactly. There you
insect
go.
out of the sky. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like a giant like laser beam coming out of his chest, like all Iron Man style, except with a little bit of the new art for walking ballista actually is very different, right? Isn't it
It's
like
a
actually some
it's a Godzilla thing, isn't it?
yeah like an ironclad something like that, like a
Yeah.
mechanoid walking around. So boom, there we go.
Mhm.
Um,
Is
but
it?
yeah, it looks like Jason's taking a mulligan, and I could have sworn I saw Leon also mulligan as well. Not
Yeah.
100% sure.
So when it comes to this matchup, so I'm looking at Jason's sideboard and I see some things like Force of Vigor, Abrupt Decay, things that he could use to interact with Leon's combo pieces.
Mhm.
Are those things that if you're playing Turbo Depths and you're clearly the beatdown in the matchup, right? Like without a doubt, Leon is the control deck in this matchup. Do you even bring in those cards? Do you care about those cards at all?
Kind of not really. And oh, wait
Ooh,
a
look at
minute.
this hand.
This is a terrifying hand. Inquisition of Kozilek is going to reveal double Manipulate Fate, double Force Effects, Uro, and enough lands to keep you going. Looks like we're going to take the Force of Negation here off of the Inquisition, which makes sense. I think the redundancy and the Manipulate Fate makes the not the best pick here. But yeah, anyways, to answer your question, I feel like the way I would look at this matchup is less so that I'm playing against Food Chain and more so that I'm playing against some sort of Bant control variant with a random combo finisher. So my goal here in this matchup is to sort of like weave my way around the Bant control tools and just kind of ignore the combo because I'm probably not losing to the combo as much as I am going to lose to like the Uros and the Okos and the Ice Fangs and the Simic Soup stuff. You know what I mean?
So that means if Jason is of the same mindset, then he 100% brings in the Sylvan Library.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Life total matters a lot less because by the time my life total starts mattering, something else must have gone wrong. And that's what is causing the issue. And so I would definitely bring in the Sylvan Library in this matchup. It's a slower matchup too, and you get a lot of life. And your opponent is playing Swords to Plowshares, right? So they're basically donating you a bunch of Sylvan Library activations. So I definitely like it in this matchup.
So is his board plan? I mean, that makes me think that the only if he's just going to neglect the food chain stuff and not dilute his deck at all, that means that Jason's likely sideboard plan was bringing in at some number of the Sylvan Safekeepers, if not all of them, and the Sylvan Library. So those are 4 cards. So what 4 cards do you think he took out?
Ooh, that's a good question. So one of the things that I noticed from from playing the deck and just like looking at how like some of the greater minds think. So just full note, if you are an avid fan of the Dark Depths strategies, you should definitely check out the Discord. Somebody might be able to present a link to that, but that's where there's a handy dandy sideboard guide that you can check out. And in this sideboard guide, it seems like in the fair matchups, we're all about dialing down the explosiveness of the deck in terms of like how fast we can put out a 2020 and more so focusing on like resiliency and being able to like power through the number of counter attempts, Swords to Plowshares, Caracas, Oko, Uro, those kind of things that the Bant control deck is trying to present, the food chain deck is trying to present. So to do that, I really like dialing down on the Lotus Petals. I really like dialing down on the Elvish Spirit Guides. Those cards aren't really that good in longer games, and that's what we're trying to play towards.
Are you surprised to still see Uro in Leon's deck?
No, I think Uro is actually pretty good. It's on the slower side of things, but it is one of those cards that can put you over 20 life, which can be extremely problematic when you're playing against a deck that also has Oko and other ways to get rid of the 2020 at sorcery speed. So I don't particularly mind it. Plus, like it's a blue card as well, which could matter. Putting you at 4 lands is just the ramp effect is also kind of good. Basically, like Uro is just so powerful in and of itself that I would keep it in almost always unless I really don't have anything else to cut. So like in the combo matchups like black red reanimator, that's somewhere where I would maybe get rid of something like Uro. But in this matchup, it's got a lot of like relevant text on it, so I'm happy to have it.
Okay, Anu, you're in Leon's seat, right? It's your turn to. You just cast Manipulate Fate. You exiled 3 Mistral Hollow Griffins and drew a card. Do you consider that Manipulate Fate a draw 4?
I do, yeah. In this matchup, absolutely. Because, well, I mean, yeah, because first of all, you can cast them from exile, so technically, like, they are in play. You just got to spend the mana on them. But also, it's like Miss Hollow Griffin is a very relevant card in this matchup, right? Like if you can get one into play. So we're going to see here, by the way, the turn 3 Uro that is going to ramp the Flooded Strand into play. We just need to untap, and then we can finally put a 3/3 blocker into play. And I totally forgot about this, by the way, that you could just put a 3/3 blocker into play and just chump the 2020, which is
the only out to a blocker like that is the 1 Sajiri step.
Yeah, exactly. So and we would have to find that out for crop rotation or just naturally draw it. So the Miss Hollow Griffins do have text. They get in the way. They cause, it's just like another hurdle for Jason to have to overcome. And the more I think about it, maybe I was just actually really wrong about the way that this matchup. Maybe this is not a good matchup for Jason because of like each card has some random / incidental way to just, slow down Jason's proactive plan or just cause one hiccup, one obstacle, one extra thing to jump over.
That's a surgical on Manipulate Fate.
Okay, that's interesting. So I guess we know that there was one in Leon's hand, so that's what we're going for here, taking that.
A food chain was also in his hand.
Uh-oh, that is quite spooky.
If he is surgicaling here, is surgicaling the Manipulate here Fate just a really intense sign of strength?
To be completely honest, I would say it's just the value-oriented play more than anything.
You think so?
Right?
Okay, because like if I were in Leon's seat and my opponent had seen my hand and is going for the surgical to take out the Manipulate Fate out of my hand, I feel like I'm probably close to dead.
Well, I would say it the other way around, which is so first of all, we noticed that Jason missed a land drop on his 3rd turn, right? Because he's only got 2 lands in play, and Leon on the draw has 3 lands for Uro, blah blah blah. You know the drill. But here, like I feel like maybe you could argue that it is somewhat of a sign of strength in that you'd much rather surgical the Uro if you could, simply because that card can do so much, put you over the requisite amount of life, draw cards, put lands into play, develop your game plan in every single aspect, I guess. So maybe if your opponent had surgical the Uro, then you'd be like, okay, yeah, they're kind of afraid of what I've got coming soon. So because they're not doing that, you could maybe say like, okay, I should actually just be terrified of what's to come because, maybe the Manipulate Fate was a blue card for Force of Will, and that's why he took it.
Hexmage lands
Right.
here.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's paying off in that he's slamming a hex page now, so like he's threatening the 2020. Let's take a step back because I want to ask you this now. Why would you board in surgical against Bant Food Chain?
Ooh, so I know generally speaking that one of the ways that the Dark Depths deck chooses to attack these Swords to Plowshares decks is by simply going turn 1, Thoughtseize your Swords to Plowshares, and draw steps, surgical it, so now you have no answers to my 2020 once it's in play. It's also good to see if the coast is clear, but that's like less of a thing. But that's the primary interaction that we're looking for. And here we also see like there are random utilities, just like, for example, sniping cards that we know that are in their hand, because we are at the end of the day a Thoughtseize based deck. We have a lot of discard spells, so we get to maximize the actual impact of surgical extraction in any matchup, honestly. because we know what's in our opponent's hand at all times, and we know exactly what to extract and when to extract it.
So at this point, it seems as though the plan is going to be cast some Mist Hollow Griffins for the Bloxies. But he's just going to go Uro. Yeah, he's going to Uro it back, just go above 20. Yeah. So you were right. It seems like you were right. Your description of why Uro's still in the deck to go above 20 has happened multiple times this game.
Yeah, and it's stressful because we want to be able to one-shot our opponent if we're in the Dark Depths from the Dark Depths perspective, and that's a lot harder when your opponent is out of range, when their life is too high. So that's one reason why I like Uro. Plus, like, the game does slow down when you go from pre-board to post-board. This just happens no matter what because of your sideboarding and answers that do things. And I don't know. Yeah, we'll see how it pays off here for Jason. I do like that Jason did create the 2020 in response to the Uro, so that we are able to basically remove a little bit of the impact that Wasteland has. You can't find like a top deck Wasteland and put it into play off the Uro.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I was wondering why he did that. That makes sense.
Yeah, and
it should be noted that in this position, with the board that is currently established for Leon, he's at 23. If he survives a hit from this 2020, which it looks like he will because there's no other ways to chip in for 3 damage. Force negation pitching Ponder here. I couldn't tell. I missed what that was. So is that
Sylvan Scrying?
So this board right now, we know about a food chain in Leon's hand, and the board as it sits means that he can combo next turn. And if he finds an out for a kill card or like his win conditions like Ballista, this game is over.
Yeah. And I actually really like this Force of Negation for the Sylvan Scrying because we know that, Jason is going to connect for 20 points of damage here. But with this food chain, Leon's about to put a flurry of birds into play, right? All these Griffins are going to come into play, and they're all chump blockers that are going to cause issues for the Mirage, right? So that Sylvan Scrying was actually going to probably pick up something like Sajiri Step, give your Mirage protection from blue, and deal the last points of damage. So very heads up Force of Negation here. I think at this point, we just put the squad into play. Uro has kind of done its job, right? It's drawn a couple cards. It's gained a lot of life. And
you're also kind of you're kind of priced into it anyway because you can't survive another hit off this Merit Ledge. So the play kind of writes itself to an extent. But it's 9 power, and he has infinite mana, so he gets to put this Eternal Scourge into play as well. So going from his Uro board, he now has 12 power, and Jason is sitting at 13. So it's not nothing that this squad on Leon's side of the table, as long as there's one of those creatures to exile, he will just always have this squad every turn. And
exactly.
he can also attack and then just give them all vigilance after going to the background.
Just hit the food chain. And a Swords on Merit Lage here.
Wow, okay. So
this game might just come down to these beatdowns now.
Yeah, just like that. This game felt like it was, Jason looked like he was in a position to take it, and now the table is completely turned. Leon's the one with the board. Leon's the one that's got all the controlling elements going for him. He's got the mana. He's got the clock. He's got Yorion too now.
Yorion's in hand.
Yeah, Yorion in hand means we can blink the Arkham's Astrolabes.
No fear here. Swings for 12.
Yeah.
All right, Anu. So a group of Griffins is technically called a pride. It is a pride of Griffins.
I think that's so cool.
If we want to give the Magic lore version of a pride of Griffins, I'm going to pass it over to Phil Wynn in the chat, who is a Griffin specialist, if he wants to come up with something.
Damn,
it's called a tier 1. So a group of Griffins or a pride of Griffins in Magic is called a tier 1 of Griffins.
I like that a lot. I was going to say, given the board state, that it's kind of like a slaughtering of Griffins, because I think these Griffins are just going to take it home. You feel me? Like, this aerial assault is going to be enough to win. This is a fast clock. Like, we did give our opponent 20 life here, but like we've already dealt.
It's a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, it's fast. These birds, they don't mess around, and just like that, we've got one Sylvan Library, so like Jason's gonna have to pick up a lot of good cards here. I don't even know, he's at 9, so I'm not sure what he can even draw here. Like, he's gonna have to at least find a Dark Depths. There's a Duress.
Force pitch Coatl. And there's
Okay.
another depths, but it's done. Am I missing something?
Wow, it's over. Yep, it's over.
It's
Yeah.
over.
All right, I'm gonna share the Zoom call link with you and with you guys. You can join if you want, and let's check in with the players.